You are looking at the real deal now. It is the O Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, CW. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure to hit that bell on YouTube and get notified when new videos go up. Subscribe to the podcast on any and all podcasting platforms. Today, we are ending the debate on what is the best era of WWE wrestling. This is it. The definitive conversation, the definitive answer. I'm going to give you an answer to what is the greatest, bestest, most fantastical era of WWE wrestling. Hands down, here it comes. This is your answer. No debate. It's whatever era you enjoyed the most. It's that simple. There's no such thing as the best era of any type of wrestling. And I know someone out there is like, of course there is. Like, no, there isn't. There is to you, but your version of that is not the same as mine or of Dad's First Time. Shout out Dad's First Time, twitch.tv/Dad's First Time. Or my boy Hawkins, or anyone. You know, it doesn't matter who you are. You have a different answer because you have a fondness or, you know, nostalgia for the time you watched that style of wrestling, you know? So someone like Dad's First Time would say that his favorite era is the golden era with like the Macho Mans and the Ultimate Warriors is and, you know, the Andre the Giants is. That's his favorite era of wrestling. I myself am partial to the Attitude Era because that's when I had the most fun. I wasn't as steeped in wrestling when I was, you know, a young lad. I watched it, you know, on, you know, Saturdays or Sundays on Fox in New York. And I didn't really pay that much attention. It was just kind of background noise to me. And I didn't really get into it until, I think, high school? Around high school, which is when the Attitude Era was popping off pretty hard. And I got really deep into it then, right into the, you know, early 2000s, kind of dipped off in the mid 2000s, and I'm back in to wrestling now. And other people might really, really love the Ruthless Aggression era. That's an era that people might enjoy with the Batistas and the Cenas and the Triple H's. But it all depends on how you felt about that era, when you watched it, what was happening in your life, what wrestling was doing for you at that time. I think wrestling is a great escape for some people. It's like it's mindless content to kind of pull you away from whatever doldrums of reality you're going through. And at the time of the Attitude Era, it was just a lot of hormones in my life, and to be honest, the Attitude Era filled a lot of the gaps in my mental state. I was a horny teen, and the Attitude Era like appealed to my thought processes at the time. Let's say that with the Trish Stratuses and the Litas and whatnot. But in terms of like actual wrestling, yeah, there was fantastic wrestling in the golden era with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and those guys. And that's what appealed to some. I look back fondly on the Attitude Era, but I will argue that the amount of great matches in the Attitude Era is few and far between. I look at the Attitude Era as a spectacle, a very, very much the most carnival-esque version of WWE that I've seen or can remember seeing. WWE is it's a traveling carny show, and or as Freddie Prinze Jr. said on his podcast when he spoke to Vince McMahon, he said it's a vaudeville show. You know, you give a little song, you give a little dance, you give something to everyone who shows up, kind of thing. And for me, though, the era that really touched on that was the Attitude Era. There was so much going on, so many ridiculous things, so many crazy notions, and it was a lot of it was due to the fact that they were competing with WCW, who was whooping their tail on a weekly basis. So Vince and his team went a little nuts, and they did crazy things. They, had an 80-year-old woman give birth to a hand for no apparent reason. They had this weird segment that I think to this day is still unknown where it came from. They had the GTV or whatever it was, the security cam footage from bathrooms and backstage and all this stuff. They never explained who was doing that or why it existed, or I'm sure it was leading to something, or maybe it wasn't, but that was a huge part of the Attitude Era, I believe. Just an unconfirmed stalker showing backstage video of stuff happening. It was weird. Everything about the Attitude Era was bonkers, and that led into the Ruthless Aggression Era with Cena, which it blurred the lines a little bit between the two. And then we got the PG era where, people couldn't cuss. They got rid of all the Attitude Era style antics and went more for the family friendly. And then I think today is a bit of a blend again, going back to have not raunchy, but having more adult themes coupled with family friendly entertainment. I still think they don't curse and they don't do anything crazy. They don't really show people bleeding or anything, but it still happens, and it's for adults and kids now. But yeah, the Attitude Era was definitely the most carnival style professional wrestling WWE has ever had. It leaned hard into sex and violence and cuckoo stuff, just really cuckoo bananas nonsense. Whereas like the retro or golden era of wrestling was very much like, if you go back and watch those matches, they have some fantastic matches. I wouldn't do it justice by naming any of them because I don't remember a ton, but there were technical matches. They told very long stories in the ring, with holds, with people working over single body parts to kind of work to get their finish off on the person. It was a more technical time. It was a more professional, quote unquote, professional wrestling time. I think a lot of matches these days lose some of that. But again, times change, audiences change, and like I've said before, like someone like Dad's First Time would much rather watch one of those matches than anything that's going on today. And that's fine. I personally would rather watch the spectacle of the Attitude Era again, but I will reiterate, there wasn't a great amount of fantastic matches in the Attitude Era. I really, really liked it for the ridiculous nature. I would sit down and watch something like Sunday Night Heat, which was basically Raw Light, which I think is what Main Event is now. And they would just cut these packages together before, you would watch Monday Night Raw tomorrow. They were like, here's what's, been happening in wrestling. And every package would be the most ridiculous thing ever. And it would make you want to watch Raw because it was legit a carnival. It was a carny show. I miss that ridiculous nature of it. But today's not bad. I'm enjoying myself with the long form storytelling now. Obviously the Bloodline doing really well. Cody Rhodes bringing some heat. Now we're in this quasi reality era where for some reason Logan Paul's a really good wrestler all of a sudden. I'm confused. Anyway, what is your favorite era of WWE wrestling? Let me know in the comments. I want to know. I want to debate it. Actually, there's no debate. It is what it is. And I'm not going to debate you. I'm just going to agree with you. I'm going to say yes because I'm a positive guy. Thank you so much for listening to the O Wrestling Podcast. Make sure to hit that bell. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to lift your weights. Make sure to take your vitamins. And don't you ever forget,
I'm your friend, but if I ever see you in the ring, I can beat you. Don't you know? Yeah, yeah, yeah.